Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Smith.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized. Ranking member for yielding, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this. And I'd especially like to thank Mr. Levin for his resolution condemning the military coup in Burma and calling for release of all those who have been detained, as well as restoring those elected to serve in Parliament to a position that allows them to fulfill their important duties. I'd also like to thank Mr. Connolly for his Protect Democracy Act in Burma Act, H.R. 1112, and the important report that it will authorize. 24 years ago, in 1997, Mr. Speaker, I chaired my first hearing on Burmese human rights abuse and chaired additional hearings after that, including in 98 and 2006. I also introduced several resolutions addressing the ongoing egregious crisis, including H.Res. 1710, which decried the house arrest of Aung San Suu Kyi and called on the Burmese military regime to end its campaign of religious and ethnic persecution of the Rohingya people, amounting to crimes against humanity. Thus, after decades of abuse, rape, torture, and murder, it is incredibly tragic as to how little has changed in that country. H.Res. 134 points out that the Burmese government's unlawful detention of Aung San Suu Kyi, as well as the crackdown on democracy advocates and the squelching of free expression and other fundamental civil and political rights, is outrageous and begs immediate reform and correction. The United States must, and I believe will, in a bipartisan way and with the executive branch taking the lead, will do its part. Every sanction of leverage must be deployed, and we must call on all of our international partners to join us in those efforts. The most glaring example of pervasive religious persecution, Mr. Speaker, is the oppression of Burmese Muslim Rohingya population. This persecution has been aided and abetted in part by the religious and nationalist extremists, such as the Buddhist monk Rathu and the 969 movement. We also see religious persecution intertwined with ethnic persecution, as in the case of the Karen, the Kachin, and Shan people, many of whom are Christians, and I have met many of them over the years. Many of you have seen the riveting image of a Catholic nun, Sister Anne Rose Nu Tuang, kneeling before a group of militarized police, pleading that they not shoot the protesters. Sadly, at least 2 pressers lost their life that day, but what gives us at least a glimmer of hope is that opposite Sister Anne Rose, 2 of the officers, who are presumably Buddhists, also got down on their knees in response that this ought to be peaceful and not violent. It is an image which gives us some hope that the people of Burma can overcome their differences and unite for peace and for justice and for the benefit of all Burmese, regardless of religion, ethnicity, or political affiliation. I thank my distinguished chairman and for the ranking member for their leadership on this, and yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you.